Mark, thanks for being with us. I'm looking forward to digging into the numbers.
Yeah, this is a big news week. A lot of really crazy things happening and a lot of really crazy things being overshadowed, unfortunately.
You're more than a pollster, Mark. I think you're a mind reader, because I was going to say all this. And I was watching Caroline's press conference yesterday. And I'm going, okay, that happened. And so let's just maybe level set. Walk me through where does Rasmussen have his approval right now?
Okay, it's not horrible. So the latest result is net plus 0.
Mark, you sound like my 6th grade teacher. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Spicer, he's not doing horrible, but he's got a lot of work ahead of him.
It could be much worse, but the problem is that he just signed his signature legislation. It's the summer. Usually you get a little bit of a positive treatment, I guess, right? He bombed Iran and got rid of the nuclear program, which was a really big, 84% wanted Iran to not have nuclear weapons. So these should be victories. And yet at the same time, the number plunged. He was up to +8, went to -4 just a few days ago. That's a loss of 12 net approval points in a few weeks. That's bad. It's not supposed to happen when he's racking up wins. And the most salient thing is obviously the Epstein thing. So I've been out there banging the drum on it. And the thing about this Epstein stuff is that I see so much fake logic or misunderstanding of the key issues on both sides. Like, people aren't framing it correctly to capture what I think the voters believe is going on here. And that people didn't elect Donald Trump because of the economy. People didn't elect Donald Trump specifically because of the border. People elected Donald Trump because they were sick of the oppressive overreach of the elitist oligarchy in Washington, D.C. That's a really hard thing to poll on. But we ask questions like, do you believe the DOJ was weaponized against a political opponent? 2-1, we get yes. Not just the border, but do you believe that it was an intentional invasion of the country? And we got roughly, 2-1 that say yes. Only 30% trust the federal government. 94% think it's important that we don't have a 2-tiered standard of justice. And so this Epstein thing is no, they don't want the list. They want their elitist bettors to get arrested for crimes. And that's the part that people seem to be overlooking here.
Okay, so take me back a step. What is, let's just say a week ago, where was his approval rating 10 days ago? Maybe roughly before the big beautiful bill passed. And again, maybe you're looking at the data right now, maybe you're not, but I'm not asking you to be precise, but ballpark speaking, where was he the week before I ran the big beautiful bill there?
So going back, he peaked on June 13th.
Okay, wait.
Which also incidentally
hold on. I just want to make sure, because today's the 18th. All right, yeah, the 18th of July. So a month and a week ago, he peaked.
Yep.
Okay.
And it was at +8, which happened to be the same day that Israel first attacked Iran, just coincidentally. And then we went into the 4th of July weekend with Donald Trump still up 3 points. The 2nd of July, 3rd of July, it was up.
What's that number? Give me the when you say 3 up. So
50% approval, 47% disapprove.
By the way, hold on. Can I pause you there? When I see all these things that say the Washington Post, Donald Trump's at 41%, I wanted to just shout that out. Why is it that you guys have him at 50? Because that's a real number. That's technically a majority. It's not a plurality. Why is it that you guys get a different number than them?
Because they're liars, Sean, basically is what it comes down to. I mean, I'm not kidding. And listen, I didn't think I was going to be in media, but we made more money this cycle calling people liars than we did actually polling, because there's really no money in honest polling. They're basically shills for the establishment. That's what it is. And you can look.
But Mark, again, this is important because people see this stuff all the time, and I want to get back to what we're talking about, but in all honesty, I think the Washington Post or whatever says he's at 41 or something, somewhere in there. You guys have him at 50 something, which makes sense to me. But is it your methodology, your model? When you say they're liars, but somehow they're constructing a model when they poll that's not what? What is it? What am I missing?
It's hard to know specifically who's doing it intentionally and who's not, who's just really bad at their job.
Is it their model?
I mean, everybody has a different methodology, and some are better than others. But the point is that you can take any data stream and correct for it. You could say, "Oh, I was too left this time. Maybe I should fix it by oversampling more Republicans, or waiting for the recalled vote, or maybe shifting my party weightings around, or something like that." But when they're perennially 3 times in a row too far left on the anti-establishment candidate, and then on top of that, when I see underhanded, really disgusting things. So I'll give you an example. And you're right, like Donald Trump won a 50% of the electorate, has been racking up wins. He should not be at a 41% job approval rating. Something's wrong. Right. But if you look at Real Clear Politics and you take pollsters like us, there's other honest pollsters. We are actually coming together. We could talk about it later, but we're coming together to form a new independent organization to represent honesty in the industry because it's totally corrupt. But when you take some of those pollsters and look at them over time and then compare people who I think are the repeat offenders, like ABC, Washington Post, CNN, Fox News, believe it or not, like all these other names, CBS, Morning Consult, there's a lot of names. There's a lot of the bad ones. And going into Trump's 100 days, when our numbers go like this and theirs go bloop and drop, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, right before the 100-day mark, they literally went from 3 to 4 points to the left of us to like 8 points to the left of us on average. The same weekend that ABC had that horrible headline that Trump has the worst 100-day polling of any president going back 80 years. That's a psychological operation. That's what happened there. They literally coordinated probably to dump horrible polling. And some of these pollsters, like New York Times, they hadn't polled since November, and they'd literally come out 2 days before the 100-day mark and just drop a horrible poll for Trump. It has no relationship to actually what happened in November. So that's happening still. And if you look at the Democrats nationally, I mean, they're a mess. They're Marxist accelerationists on a national scale. It makes sense that they're going to keep doing stuff like this with every fiber of their being and every tool in their toolbox, which, quite frankly, is a lot of gaslighting they have in there.
Right.
A lot of fake stuff.
Before I move on, though, you said, like, who are the worst? Who are the ones that when we see, or I'm sorry, you said, you mentioned a couple of the good ones. So who would be, just so we set the table here, who are the really bad ones?
I mean, like ABC, Washington Post, Reuters, Ipsos, Morning Consult, Quinnipiac, like all of these things. And they have track records that are laughable. And often what happens, too, is that they window dress, right? And so look what we had Trump +2, literally for like 3 months straight the entire fall. We were putting out weekly polls. And they, on average, the aggregate, I think in the Real Clear Politics aggregate, finished about 1.5 to 2 points Harris. So they're like 3-4 points on average, the entire industry. But some of those pollsters in the middle of August and September, that's the problem. Nobody's measuring then. But I was, and they were like 9 points to the left of me. And what was happening? They were trying to convince everybody that Kamala Harris, even though she polled as like the worst vice president ever, was somehow like the second coming of Barack Obama in a dress. And it was just totally fake. And it worked on people. 18 to 29-year-old women went 20 points left in like a period of 3 weeks. And that's because they were like pumping out ads on Instagram and hey, had all the actors and actresses. Now, unfortunately for them, 18 to 29-year-old men went 20 points the other direction. But like this is the tactics they use, and it's disgusting, and it's still going to continue.
Yeah. Random question. Are you a sports fan?
No, I don't have time for sports, unfortunately.
Okay. No. The reason I ask is that as you were talking, I thought of an analogy, and I just wanted to run it by you because it was clicking in my brain as you were talking. So like you obviously, you might not be a sports fan, but you know the game of soccer and hockey, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay. Right. So I say this because, like, imagine you're looking at stats or a game, and my team has shot the ball 20 times on your team, and your team has shot the ball once on my team. Okay. You are a numbers guy. What is the probability that my team is going to win and your team is going to lose?
I mean, if those convert to goals at roughly equal.
But my point is, okay, I never took math in college, but my point is not to put you to the test here. It's to say, if I shoot on your team 30 times and you shoot on my team 1, is it possible you beat me? Sure. But the odds are not, right? The odds are that if I'm doing that. And a way, when you were talking, I thought of that analogy, and here's why. Donald Trump's like keeps shooting on goal. Big, beautiful bill. Iran strikes, border. Okay, boom, 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 boom. Democrats fail, 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 right? I mean, honestly, the only thing that they've done for the American people is say, we'll release the Epstein trial. Like, that's the only thing they'll do for the American people right now. That's it, nada. And I thought to myself, okay, that's shot on goal, shot on goal, shot on goal, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump. And yet the approval ratings like, woot, and then the Democrats. So let's take what you were, the table that you were setting and go back. Where is he right now?
Yeah. Okay, so
July,
Donald Trump,
you walked us through. Sorry, we went down this rabbit hole. You were at July 4th. Okay, like go from there.
Well, I thought, I've been overlaying. We have daily approval tracking going all the way back to the end of the Bush administration. And I was looking at all of the other presidencies and I said, there's something different with Trump. Honeymoons have been getting smaller, but Trump looked like he was going to keep his pretty good favorability rating, his job approval rating, in a way that none of the other presidents were able to. Because Trump 1 crashed because of Russian collusion, Biden crashed because of Afghanistan, Obama 1 crashed because he wasn't actually Jesus. And so it looked like he was going to cross over Obama's first term, which would have been really crazy. But all of a sudden it plunged out of nowhere coming out of the 4th of July weekend. And it has reversed. It has, but it got down. It went, again, 12-point drop when it should be positive news, when it should be going up, when things shouldn't be happening bad because people are at the beach. It plunged rapidly. And there were a few things probably that happened. I think the one big beautiful bill, I don't think was messaged well. I don't think it's a clear win. It never really pulled that great. And I think also we saw things, I don't know how much this affected normies, but we saw obviously reports about people talking about amnesty, not a good word to be using right now. And then it's the Epstein stuff. And again, we have specific polling on Epstein that show that although Trump probably will weather this, the Democrats will probably talk about it all the way to November 26, it's not a good thing because Americans have a fundamental belief that there were illegal things happening and they aren't being addressed. And this entire election, again, a referendum on government overreach, unaccountability. And so the accountability word, accountability, it's not transparency. I don't think voters want to see these files and have to do the investigative work themselves. I think that they want redress for the fact that we have an FBI that under Biden, a majority agreed was Joe Biden's personal Gestapo. Over 60% think the CIA is giving talking points to the media. These are things that everybody will say are tinfoil hat conspiracy theories, but no, people are smart. They think the vaccines were unsafe. There's a list, a huge laundry list of things for which they have a First Amendment right to redress their grievances. And the media would say, no, you're not allowed to redress grievances. That's retribution. That's bad, blah, blah, blah. And then the Republicans just get into office and pass these big old 4,000-page bills, just like the Democrats do. And so people were very optimistic. I sound like a doomer. I'm not. I'm trying to be a referee for the voter here. Right direction hit records under Trump. And it's still really high. It's 44% right now, but it got up to 50. And we had a majority thinking that Trump's second term would be a golden age. But what was happening during those time periods was this flood of information from Doge, a flood of things that looked like the paradigm was going to be shattered. And I don't know if voters think that anymore. And I think Epstein, I'll just rattle off one or two of these questions. And we did this after Pam Bondi came out. And she said, case closed. Bongino and Kash Patel said, I've watched the video. He committed suicide. And the problem is that that's not good enough. So the FBI and DOJ recently concluded an investigation that found that Epstein committed suicide and that he did not keep a client list. Do you believe the FBI and DOJ are telling the truth? 21% yes. 56% no. Only 27% of Republicans say yes. So that's the thing, is you can't just ignore this. This isn't accountability. This is... And the idea, again, if Trump just focuses on other stuff, it might go away, or they might be yelling at him at rallies all the way from November 26th when he's trying to get Senate Republicans over the finish line. And I don't know what's on this stuff, but I'm saying we spend $11 billion a year for an investigative unit called the Federal Bureau of Investigations. And everybody seems to forget that they could investigate here. And so you can't, again, this stuff is kind of like gaslighting. And doing that is not good for voters because they've gotten really good at seeing through the stuff under the Biden administration. Everybody thought the DOJ was weaponized against a political opponent. It was like a 62% position or something like that. Almost 60% literally thought Joe Biden was taking money from our foreign adversaries, China. So it's like, that's the crazy thing. The government was saying nothing to see here. No, there's nothing on the laptop. But the voters are like, yeah, there is. And we want to know about it. And not only that, 57% want to see Comey and Brennan go to jail. They don't want to see these documents come out. They want to see heads on pikes.
Yeah, I love the way you're putting this because as you're saying it, I'm thinking, again, no more sports analogies, but I was thinking to myself, you're right. Like, I don't want to see these lurid pictures or inappropriate things but I do want accountability. And you're right. There's a distinction there because people throw around this word transparency. And I don't know that I want to see the documents, but I want to know that someone's being held accountable and that, to your other point, is we're not being gaslit. Don't tell me that there's nothing there. I know there's something there, right? All right. So before I get back to the track, because I kind of want to see where, okay, based on your polling, and I've dealt with pollsters, since my first campaign. You not only tell the numbers, but you kind of can go under the hood a little. So let's just pretend you're Stephen Chung, the White House communications director, or Taylor Budowich, the deputy chief of staff of communications, or James Blair. They call you and say, hey, Mark, I see your track. I see the numbers. What gets us back? Is it more accountability in Epstein? Can we pivot on getting the jobs numbers? What will get us back?
Two answers. One is I think they'll probably get back anyways, maybe. But the Democrats are going to bang on this drum for a year and a half. And then it'll be the very first thing they do if they regain power is have an Epstein commission. We all know that, right?
Do we? Do they really want that list out there? I mean, honestly?
Well, they're not going to put it out there, but they're certainly going to have a performative investigation.
Oh, right. They'll fake it.
Right? But I think it's very reasonably to say it's like people are concerned about this. They don't think that justice is being done. Releasing lists is not justice. It's just asking Americans to do the investigative work that you didn't do. So justice has not been done, in my opinion, and I think in voters' opinions, because the Epstein stuff, we said, which is closer to your opinion, that the case is closed or there's dozens of powerful and wealthy offenders who need to face justice. Only 16% say the case is closed. Only 20% are Republicans. Only 14% are independents. And Trump's lost 25 points among independents for job approval since this administration started. So
hold on. Let me break this down. 25 points overall with independents since the beginning. How does that fare time-wise since the Epstein, or where is that? Is that over time a gradual attrition, or is that precipitous at some particular point?
I mean, it's one of those things where I'm just still trying to pick up. I could go back and look. I mean, it's been dropping. He's been underwater with independents, I think, for 2 or 3 months. I think it started really around, Elon disappearing was a blow, in my opinion, to the Trump administration. And I think the optics were, in my opinion, this is just me parsing because the independent numbers have been dropping, is that it kind of seemed like a DC win. You know what I mean? And you're right. We get under the hood. A lot of people will just go out and do a poll and ask the political questions about matchups and stuff like that. But we ask, what do you want more of in DC? Business as usual or massive change? And unsurprisingly, massive change wins 60 to 20, 65 to in the teens. It's a massive margin. And so anything that looks like business as usual in DC is unpopular. And so it's look, we have another debt ceiling fight, a massive spending bill. The Republicans by a 4-1 margin say the one big beautiful bill didn't cut enough. And then independents are watching this stuff too. They're concerned about accountability and they're concerned about the spending as well. I just looked May 22nd, independents were underwater 3 points on Trump. He's underwater 19 points with them right now. So I mean, it's been
Wait,
coming.
hold on. 3 in May,
Yep.
19 now.
2 months. Yep.
Okay. This goes back to what we were talking about, though. Like shots on goal, right? I look and I go, okay, one of the big issues was border security, okay? The economy. I get the point you made at the beginning of our conversation, but like, it's if you are out there right now, you go, okay, wow, he's locked this border down. He's taking on big food and big pharma with the Maha movement. He is passing the big beautiful bill. He is cutting government spending. Like he's doing what he said he would do.
Yeah.
I would assume that people would be rewarding him.
Well, I said I have 2 answers. Let me sort of explain. Is that I think Trump. There's a messaging problem here. I think they're going to figure out that they need to fix it. Sooner would be better than later for just this specific Epstein issue. Okay. But I think Trump is getting wins and will have a positive term, and his number will recover, hopefully faster if they, maybe do something about this. But the other problem is that just historically speaking, there's a ridiculous chance that the Democrats are going to pick up the House and or the Senate in the fall of 26. And in the current state of the Democrat Party, I think that there's reasons to believe that that could be problematic. Let's just put it that way, right? And what is the plan for Republicans who, quite frankly, I don't think look like they're breaking the right kind of sweat right now? That's my personal opinion. Again, because people like look at the one big beautiful bill and say, no, there's not enough spending. Like, no, it wasn't super popular. No, we don't think it makes the tax situation better. We had polling like that, and it obviously does. But the point is that they're not getting credit for it. Okay. So Republicans won the House popular vote by 3 points. Probably should have done better. There was some hijinks that happened in some of the race. Probably should have done better. But Democrats are up between 1 and 2 points, in my opinion, right now in the generic ballot. And that's not where you want it to be. Republicans will lose the House if that subsists. And so if Donald Trump continues to kick around 49, 50, 51%, whatever, it's probably enough for him to continue to get stuff done. But Democrats are going to be launching investigations, having hearings, setting up fake, commissions, maybe win the Senate, maybe get rid of the 60-vote filibuster rule. I've asked a lot of people in D.C. that question. If the Democrats get the Senate back, is that gone? Are they still going to have that? Or are they going to get rid of it? And everybody I asked are like, oh, yeah, they're probably going to get rid of it. And then it's like, okay, well, we're waiting on these 3,000-page bills to codify a quarter of Trump's executive orders. There's been very little legislation. There's been many, many recess days. It doesn't match the existential level that voters came to the ballot box with in November. And I know that Trump doesn't control all that. I know that that's a problem, but it's like, that's where we're at. That's the problem, is that, again, voters don't have a ton of options here, and they trusted the Republicans. And you don't want them to start to feel like they're being let down. That's what's dangerous about this.
All right, so go back to the question I asked you. James Blair, he's the political director. Stephen Chung's the communications director. Taylor Budowich is the deputy comms director or deputy chief of staff for communications, et cetera. They call you and say, Mark, okay, I'm reading Rasmussen Reports. I see the polling. What is it that we should be doing on a day-to-day basis to communicate better, to focus on an issue better? Is it an issue? Is it a messaging? Is it a bandwidth? What is it that we need to do? And you say what?
Flood the zone with accountability. That's what I would do. Because that's what drove Right Direction to the highest polling in our history. Oh my God, look at what USAID is spending money on. Oh my God, we're probably giving Social Security payments to drug dealers or something. Like that was the tone and tenor when Right Direction turned positive for the very first time in 20 years of our polling. It was back in February and March for the very first time. And that's accountability, right? It's like, the government's being cleaned up. People were super happy about it, especially 18 to 39-year-olds who had actually the highest Trump approval that I've ever seen. And they've lost that. It's down again now. And so, again, accountability means something very different. Look at the CIA and the stuff that they're leaking out, right? Okay. a lot of people are looking at that stuff and saying, yeah, okay, CIA was probably implicated in killing Kennedy. Okay, I agree with you that everybody involved is probably dead, but that doesn't change the fact that we still have an agency that was able to do that. And putting a new person at the head of that organization doesn't correct the root cause of the problem, which is that we have an agency that can do that. And so it's like every grievance that voters have under the Biden administration hasn't necessarily been redressed. And so if I were running things, and I guess like I understand there's political realities, but I would launch a new investigation every week, all the way up until November 26th. I would get rid of the 60-vote filibuster rule and pass a one-page popular legislation every week up until November 2026, because I'm just saying, like, what Republicans are doing now doesn't look like it's going to be enough. That's because history tells us, and also the Democrats are really good at, electoral asymmetries. Let's just put it that way, right? I don't know. Are we still going to have Act Blue running money? Because the biggest polling miss that we ever had in our career was the fall of 2018, which is the first time that in an off cycle, Act Blue had like over $1 billion haul. It was like $1.6 billion went into all those races, and Trump campaigned for the Senate. They did well in the Senate. They got crushed in the House. So I'm just saying, like, voters are upset and angry. 43% of them think we're going to have a civil war in the next couple of years. Majorities of Republicans and Democrats thought there would be a violent reaction to the electoral outcome here. Only 30% trust the federal government. 22% say today's children will have it better off than their parents. Only 22%. So the American dream's gone. Nobody trusts the government. They're angry. They want these people imprisoned. They don't trust the agencies. Like, we've asked a million of these questions, and the trend is always the same thing. And it's like, I've gone on Steve Bannon's show a lot. He's talked about the fourth turning idea. Like that, there's a reality there, is that Trump is right now voters' best chance, in my opinion, of correcting a lot of these wrongs. But like, what happens if you take that off the table?
When you say they, meaning voters, is it across party lines, or is it mostly Republicans? Like, who is the they?
I mean, depending on the issue, it's very different. Like, independents and Republicans are really close on accountability things. Like, if you ask, well, you want to put Brennan in jail? Republicans and independents very close. But on more of the social issues, independents are closer to the Democrats. But you take your prototypical like Trump MAGA item, like mass deportations, and you're going to get like 70 to 80% of Republicans, a majority of independents, probably by like plus 10, and then a good 30% of Democrats, 30, 40%. Like, Democrats don't actually really like illegal immigration. They just vote for different issues. And that is usually gaslighting. We asked MSNBC watchers, what was your number one issue this election? 46% said threats to democracy, which is literally just like a fake issue. And then another 25% of them said abortion, which is another fake issue. It had nothing to do with the presidential election, right? But then if you ask Fox News, Newsmax viewers, they're like, oh, 80% of them say prices in the border. Like, so that's the problem. And again, Democrats, that doesn't mean you can't pick them up. That doesn't mean you can't peel them off. I'll tell you, this Epstein one could be a really big one, because Epstein, Democrats think, I guess, that there's probably some chance that Trump gets taken down by that. I don't think that's the case. But one of the least popular things we polled on is a two-tiered system of justice and election integrity. And polling, you never get 100%. If you ask, how important is it that public officials are held to the same standards as everyday citizens, it's 94%. 82% vary. If you ask people how important is it to prevent cheating in elections, you get a number in the 90s, with 90% very important, including Democrats, cross-party lines. And so, that's the thing. It's like, well, if you want to change the political cycle, if you want to break this historical tendency of this back and forth between two parties that don't really get anything done, you have to address the actual fundamental grievances of Americans, which is the American dream got stolen. They don't trust any of the elite. They think that the rule of law, we even had 72% of people concerned that they're living in a police state. Like, there's just so many of these. I could just rattle them off. Things are bad. And it's like, and what happens, in my opinion, having gone to DC, not that many times, but enough, is that like that gets sanitized into, well, people voted for Trump because of the border, or economy was the number one issue. No, economy's not the number one issue. Like, people can't afford food, and corporate profits massively soared during the COVID era. Like, little businesses got shut down, people lost their jobs, and big businesses profited. And then, oh, by the way, we elected Trump to stop the border invasion, and DC Republicans can't wait to start talking about amnesty behind closed doors. Like, these are the things that are problems, and they have to stop.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.